If there is ever one news outlet that I can tell you is pretty much just fake news, seriously, it's the Daily Beast. I actually did an interview with the Daily Beast once, it's funny. But there are news websites where people sit in their living room and just write fake stuff to get traffic. And there are big media companies that write actual news. And then you have the hybrid. Daily Beast is a hybrid of people claiming to be journalists when they're not, because they lie all the time and just write things they made up. I'm telling you, this is true. Here I have this article from Kelly Weil, and I'll show you exactly how she makes things up and contorts the truth to try and push her political agenda. For one, she's written articles that can't be confirmed. There was a story about Cernovich speaking at Columbia University. Well, I was there, and someone had a essentially pro-pedophilia banner. Many people thought that it was Jack Posobiec, right-wing personality, or Mike Cernovich, who staged this fake protest in front of the Antifa march. The protesters quickly destroyed the banner and got rid of it. Well, Kelly Weil wrote that it was the alt-right. Okay, I couldn't confirm it. I don't know who did it. Everyone denied it. It was my opinion that I thought it was likely Jack Posobiec did it, but he denied it. So I don't know who did it. For all I know, it could have been some dumb YouTube prankster. It could have been black propaganda. As I mentioned in the previous video, it could have been Antifa trying to frame Cernovich for framing them. Who knows what's happening? The point is, we shouldn't jump to conclusions, and if we can't confirm it, we can't confirm it. But Kelly Weil knew for a fact, and she wrote that it was the alt-right. So I reached out and said, can you provide a comment as to how you were able to confirm this story? No response. I reached out to the Daily Beast. No response. Obviously, they're not going to respond because their pieces... I'm going to calm down a little bit. Of course they're not going to respond because they're liars. Here we have a story from Kelly Weil, once again, making shit up. So the core of this story is, for the most part, presumably true. But look what she does. She put, website promised free anti-Antifa shirts. Alt-right signed up. It was a trap. Now, the main issue is, the alt-right signed up? How do you know that? You don't. You don't know who signed up. You don't know who these people are. And in fact, this is actually, I'm not a lawyer, but I believe this might be a false statement of fact that could get them into legal trouble with defamation. Because alt-right has at least a general definition. So according to the SPLC, the aggregation on Wikipedia, the Associated Press, USA Today, I talk about this a lot. Alt-right means white nationalist, for the most part. It is also defined as trollish, ethno-nationalists, white identitarians. There's a broad neo-Confederate, things like that. What she is saying here is she is saying the people who signed up are alt-right. And this could be a problem because this website doxed the people who signed up. And that's basically the story. It could be argued that she is saying those who signed up are alt-right, when in reality, there are a lot of people who are not alt-right, who don't like Antifa. So you have this shirt, which is a shield with the American flag, and you've got the iron front strike through. It's 3 arrows, and they're being deflected by the shield. Actually, it's a surprisingly good design for an anti-Antifa shirt, if that's what you're into. But so let's look at this story. It said, a website that offered free anti-fascist t-shirts for a real far-right march appears to have been a trap by anti-fascists. Appears to be. At least that's fair because we don't know anything about this. Well, okay, here's what we know. A website claimed to be selling shirts. If you signed up, then they would take your information and then nothing would happen. And then later, they claimed the people who signed up didn't send them the money and here's their information. It's possible that it was anti-fascists honeypotting people who would oppose Antifa. To say that it was the alt-right who signed up, we don't have any proof. To say that it really was an anti-fascist attack, we have no proof. Kelly Weil has written an article on total conjecture without fact. I mean, this story should be a couple sentences. So she writes about what it is. Basically, participants included members of anti-Muslim group the Proud Boys. Okay, so on August 18th, Trump supporters will host the National March Against Far-Left Violence. There are a lot of people who oppose far-left violence, even people on the left, okay? Organized by a pair of frequent attendees at far-right rallies, expected participants include members of the anti-Muslim group the Proud Boys. It's really weird that this language she uses, the anti-Muslim group. If you go by what the Proud Boys claim, you can't really say that. So it's like, there's a lot of things you could call them. I wonder why she just uses this kind of language. The Proud Boys have recently published they don't care what your religion is. So maybe they are anti-Muslim. I don't know. I think it's interesting that she asserts these things. I always question, right? When a journalist adds a descriptor that's seemingly unrelated to what's going on. So Kelly Weil was at Unite the Right too. Imagine if I wrote an article and said, journalist Kelly Weil, who was an attendee at this year's Unite the Right 2, wrote an article about anti-fascists. Everything I said there is true, but why would I include that? It makes it sound like she's a neo-Nazi who attended the rally. She did attend the rally as a journalist, but you see when they do this, I have to wonder why. Why do they add these descriptors when she could have just said, the Proud Boys, a self-described Western chauvinist group? That's how they describe themselves. Including anti-Muslim is just one descriptor of many that they've been criticized for. So again, why do these journalists do that? It's poisoning the well. That's what it is. So anyway, Kelly Weil, who was an attendee at this year's Unite the Right 2, continues. In early July, when the march leaders were planning their event, an apparent ally set up a website where marchers could pre-order anti-Antifa t-shirts, but the website appears to have been a trap by Antifa. Again, I don't know how she knows this. They don't include any of that. It appears to be sure, but it could be a trap by anybody. It could be a trap. Maybe it was a Muslim group. Why is it Antifa? They turned around and published the names and addresses they'd collected from the website. And I'm going to show you the site, but I'm absolutely not going to show you any of the information because that would be doxing. Now the far right is trying to get their apparent anti-fascist trolls arrested. And you see how she puts apparent Antifa over and over again. Appears to be Antifa. Appears to be Antifa. Apparent Antifa. Right. They say that when they have no idea what they're talking about. Okay. I could say apparent anti-far right trolls. I could say, now the far right is trying to get their apparent t-shirt salesmen arrested. Salesmen. Right. You can just put whatever you want here. This is garbage fake news. Now here's the thing. This story, it happened. Like, the website exists. Their information's on it. We just don't know who did it or why, and we don't know who signed up. So, what do you have? Nothing. Anyway, Kelly Weil, who was an attendee at this year's Unite the Right rally, continues. An anonymous person registered a website for the National March Against Far-Left Violence in early July. Web registry records show. An early version of the site encouraged fans to subscribe to its mailing list or pre-order t-shirts, which showed an anti-fascist symbol being damaged by the American flag. Well, it's not being damaged, it's being deflected. The site didn't ask for payment, just an address so he can calculate shipping costs. Privacy-savvy marchers might have known to avoid a web form asking for their information. The far right and its opponents often wage controversial doxing campaigns against each other. Hey, that's true. With fascists and anti-fascists posting their rivals' personal details online in an attempt to intimidate them or reveal their identities. That is absolutely true. After the first Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville, Virginia, some white supremacists cited doxing campaigns as the reason why they would not participate in a future rally. And this is all factually correct. So then Kelly Weil, who was an attendee at this year's Unite the Right rally as well, continues. That didn't stop approximately 36 people who allegedly signed up for the mailing list or tried to reserve anti-Antifa shirts. This week, days before the march, the site started publishing those people's names and sometimes their addresses. The following people still have not paid for the t-shirt they ordered. The site's publishers wrote above a list of several dozen names. We are hardworking organizers who paid hard-earned money out of our own pockets to have these shirts printed. The fact that our fellow patriots are now shirking their obligations is alarming to us. So there is a link in here. From an archive. I'm going to pull this up. So this web archive doesn't show any of the personal information, but this is what the website looked like. It's now been updated to include people's private information. And it's important to note, we don't know who these people are. It's just a series of names and addresses. Clearly, they're people who oppose violence. Why would we assume they're alt-right? I don't know. Kelly Weil just included that in her article. Anyway, you can see here that they said, pre-order a National March Against Far-Left Violence t-shirt. Please fill out the following form to pre-order your t-shirts by August 11th so that we can have them printed for the 18th. And I gotta say, that is actually a really good design. It's a clever trick. If this was a trick, which it may have been, and by who we don't know, and possibly Antifa, but I'm not going to even say it appears to be Antifa because it could be literally anybody. You've got these three arrows are typically associated with the Antifa symbol, and they're actually bouncing off of a shield with American flag on it. I would say it's also particularly interesting that a shield is a defensive item. And showing Antifa to be deflected, I'm sure there are people who just don't like far-left violence. And it would be strange. It's strange to me that, well, it's not strange, but I'd also like to point out, no, okay, I said it's strange that Kelly Weil would assume they're all alt-right, because there are regular Americans who detest violence from all sides. And there are probably a lot of Americans who know full well the dangers of communism and the USSR and the Cold War, who would not appreciate far-left violence. And we have seen a lot of far-left violence. So they claim they said, give us your address so we can calculate shipping costs. And then they include, this city's so far confirmed of where the rallies are going to take place. And then, yada, yada, yada. Then they ask people to sign up to their subscriber list. They also included a contact form. I don't know if this will load, but another is multiple attempts to try and take people's information. So, what I want to mainly point out is that we have this story, which is interesting, but also let me just say that the Daily Beast employs activists. I honestly don't know if there's actual journalists who work at the Daily Beast. And this is not me being hyperbolic. I mean, when we look at Kelly Weil's articles, you can see that it's all advocacy. So I guess you could theoretically call her an advocate journalist, but I think maybe they changed how it says website promoting free anti-Antifa shirt was a trap. Let's see what happens when we click this if she's fixed the headline. Nope, it still says alt-right signed up. So interestingly, when you click her byline and go to Kelly Weil's page, you can see that the title here is actually fine. It says website promising free anti-Antifa shirts was a trap. Now here's an issue, is that we don't even know if it was a trap. Okay, we can only assume it was a trap. So it's really interesting that Kelly Weil, who was an attendee to this year's Unite the Right Nazi rally, would write an article making these accusations without evidence, and I have to wonder why that is. And it's not the first time that Kelly Weil, who was an attendee to this year's Unite the Right Nazi rally, has written articles where she's inserted conjecture and just generally made things up. Okay, while there's a reason to believe it may be the alt-right who signed up, that is a grand assumption for Kelly Weil, who was an attendee to this year's Unite the Right neo-Nazi rally. It's a grand assumption for her to make, and I have to wonder why Kelly Weil, who was an attendee to this year's Unite the Right Nazi rally, would make such a claim. Anyway, thanks for hanging out and listening to me talk about this article by Kelly Weil, who was an attendee to this year's Unite the Right neo-Nazi rally. And stay tuned. I don't know if I'll have any more videos today, but if I do, they'll be up.